Good evening. We're ready to begin. This Planning Commission meeting is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV, Cable Channel 2. Please note customers of CenturyLink and Cox Communications can view this program in high definition on Channel 1002 and in standard definition on Channel 2. You can also watch this meeting live on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Go Vegas app. The Planning Commission meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, can be viewed on the internet at www.kclv.tv/live. The proceedings will be rebroadcast on KCLV and the web the Saturday of the meeting at 10 a.m., Monday at midnight, and the following Tuesday at 6 p.m. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Cherry.
Present.
Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Present.
Commissioner Schlottman.
Present.
Commissioner Toussaint.
Present.
Commissioner Flangus. Excused. Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Rogan.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. I call your attention to the information printed in the agenda concerning our actions and the appeal and review process if appropriate. There's agendas on both sides of the podium if anyone would like to come up and grab one. Also, the second page of the agenda contains our rules of conduct. We appreciate you adhering to these rules so we can have a smooth meeting. Moving on to item number 4. All comments made under this item for specific action will be cross-referenced to those items. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak under this portion of the agenda? Hi, Commissioner Quinn.
Good evening. Victoria Quinn, 350 South Rancho for the record. For 11 and a half years, I sat up there with most of you, some of you, and all of you. And it was the job that Councilwoman Tarkanian gave me that filled my life, that gave me reason to get up every day and go to work. And in some ways, she saved my life. With that, I'm forever grateful. But tonight, I stand here in front of you under a different capacity. I was asked to work with Mr. Knudsen, our new Councilman Knudsen, for 6 to 8 weeks to help with this transition. And with that, I ask you to welcome our new Planning Commissioner from Ward 1, Mr. Jeff Rogan. Jeff Rogan comes with lots of experience. He's a district attorney. He loves our neighborhood. He loves our ward. And I ask each of you to welcome him as I welcomed each of you. And as I leave here today, my legacy is only but one thing, and that is for you always to remember that whatever you approve, that the disabled are able to go into any office, any restaurant, and any bathroom the same way any able-bodied person does. With that, I love each of you. I wish you the best. I'm always just a phone call away. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Quinn, and we do take that to heart, and we will keep that carried on in spirit. And welcome to Commissioner Rogan to the commission as well. We're excited to work with you. Okay, let's move on to item number 5. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from June 11, 2019.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post.
Mr. Chairman, what was that date?
June 11.
June 11th.
I'm trying to recall if I was at that meeting, if I'm,
Oh,
I only
that's
missed
right.
one meeting in 8 years, so I want to go ahead and point that out. But it was either that meeting or the meeting before, and I want to make sure that the record's correct on that.
That is correct, Commissioner Schlottman. I don't recall if it was that meeting. It was around that time, but to the city attorney, I think he can still vote.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, he can still vote because you're really just voting to approve that these are the final minutes. So we usually suggest you don't make the motion, but you can still vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and that motion did carry. Moving on to our item number 6, our housekeeping items. Are there any items that commissioners, staff, applicants, or members of the public would like to pull forward for action? Commissioner Rogan?
Mr. Chairman, if we could please pull forward numbers 34 and 35.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schlotman? No, okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have some housekeeping items as well. The applicant is requesting to obey items 56 through 59 to the August 13, 2019 Planning Commission. This is the first abeyance request for these items. And the applicant is requesting to obey item 39 to the August 13, 2019 Planning Commission. This is the second abeyance request for this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I don't think we need a motion for this portion. We can just go right to...
No, we need to
Do we?
vote on the abeyance.
Oh, the abeyance. You're absolutely correct, Director. Thank you. Can we get a motion, Vice Chair?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the one motion, one vote.
You're on abeyance.
Abeyance.
You're approving the abeyance.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the abeyance, please, of, is that 39, 56, 57, 58, and 59? For August 13, 2019, Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries. Okay, moving on to the one motion, one vote. The following are items that may be considered in one motion, one vote. They are considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items. All public hearings and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any person representing an application or a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the applications recommended by staff should request to have the item removed from this part of the agenda. Item number 7, EOT 76473, applicant owner, Boca Park Marketplace Syndications Group LLC, for possible action request for a first-time extension of time of a previously approved variance to allow 3 proposed 24-foot tall monument signs where 10 feet is allowed, to allow 1 383 square foot and 2 208 square foot monument signs where 75 feet per sign is allowed, and to allow an 8-foot separation between the 3 proposed monument signs where a minimum separation of 100 feet between signs is required on 72.55 acres at the northeast corner of Charleston Boulevard and Rampart Boulevard, C1 and PD zones. Ward 2, staff recommends approval. Item number 8, MOD 76535, applicant Greystone Nevada LLC, owner Howard Hughes Company LLC, for possible action for a request for a major modification of the approved Summerlin Village 24 Master Development Plan to change the Summerlin land use designation from SF2 to SFSD on the south side of Cross Bridge Drive, approximately 2,700 feet of Sun Creek Drive. Ward 2, staff recommends approval. Item number 9 through 30 will be read into the record at one time. This is for Summerlin major deviations, items 9 through 30, for possible action request for a Summerlin major deviation to allow a 3-foot to 8-foot or 18-foot garage setback where 3 feet to 5 feet or 18 feet is required on lots 133, 137, 138, 139, 142, 144, 145, 152, 158, 159, 163, 164, 165, 166, 174, 308, 309, 325, 339, 351, 352, and 412 of a 421-lot single-family residential development. Staff recommends approval. Related item 31, TMP 76536, Summerlin Village 24 parcel FGH. For possible action on a request for a tentative map for a 421-lot single-family residential subdivision. Staff recommends approval. Related items 32 and 33. 32, GPA 76545, applicant City of Las Vegas, owner Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority, For possible action and request for a general plan amendment from M to PF at the northeast corner of Bonanza Road and Wardell Street, Ward 3, staff recommends approval. Related item number 33, ZON 76546, for possible action and request for rezoning from R3 to CV. Item number 36, SUP 76596, applicant owner 612 Carson, LLC, for possible action or request for a special use permit for proposed 1,348 square foot tavern limited establishment with 83 square feet of outdoor seating area at 616 East Carson Avenue, Suite 140, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 37, SUP 76605, applicant Just the Mess, LLC, owner 201 Charleston, LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 1,639 square foot tavern limited establishment with 600 square feet of outdoor seating area at 201 East Charleston Boulevard, Suite 100, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. And finally, item number 38, SDR 76438, applicant John Staluppi Jr., for owner Danielle Realty LLC, for possible action request for a major amendment to approve rezoning and plot plan review for proposed 9,225 square foot building at an existing auto dealer inventory storage development with a waiver to allow building facades with no visual interest where such is required at 2249 Red Rock Street, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. I will have a quick disclosure on item number 37. I do live within the notification area. This won't affect me any lesser or greater, so I will be voting on the application. Commissioner Schlotman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on item 35, make a disclosure. It's a marijuana dispensary use. We're going to do that at public hearing, so I'll do my disclosure at public hearing, but let's, if I can keep going. 36, let's see, I think I have ongoing business relationship with the owner of the property, so I'll be abstaining on that. And 37, I own a bar right across the street from this tavern, so I'll be abstaining on item number 37.
Thank you for the disclosures. Vice Chair?
With that said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve one motion, one vote, with the pulling 34 and 35 to be heard under public comment, and number 38, I have an amendment that need to be added, so if I can have Eric read it into the record.
Through your chair, item number 38, SDR 76438, we would like to add the following condition. The trash enclosure shall be relocated to the midpoint along the west property line. Thank you.
Applicant, I say applicant to come
Yeah,
forward.
is the applicant here for that item? If you could please come forward. I need your name and address for the record, and if you agree with the additional condition or change in condition.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Michael Bellon, 1408 Saintsbury Drive, here representing the applicant, Mr. John Staluppi, and we agree to the condition.
Thank you. All right, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, items 7, 36, and 38 will be final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days. Items 8 through 33 and item 37 will move on to city council and be heard as a part of their agenda on August 21st, 2019.
Thank you. And now we will move on to the public hearing items. We'll start with number 34. SUP 76493, applicant Counts Vamped, owner CKPB LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 3,003 square foot liquor establishment use with 397 square feet of outdoor seating with a waiver to allow a 0-foot distance separation from a church house of worship where 1,500 feet is required at 6750 West Sahara Avenue, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed tavern restricted liquor establishment does not conform to minimum distance separation requirements per Title 19. However, the distance separation requirement can be waived subject to the applicant obtaining a tavern-restricted alcoholic beverage license pursuant to Las Vegas Municipal Code Title VI. The subject site has operated a supper club use since 2009 and a nightclub use since 2015. Staff finds the proposed use to be compatible and harmonious with neighboring development and recommends approval of this special use permit. Please note that there are additional letters of protest and support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here for item number 34? Thank you. If you could please come up, give your name, address for the record, and tell us about the application. Thank you.
Kevin Mack, 11484 Snow Creek Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Would you like to tell us about the application?
What's that?
Would you like to tell us about the application?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, we've been operating this way, and they introduced a tavern restricted, so no gaming. And then this way, you know, we always felt like we should have had a tavern license. There is one on the corner, the old Hungry Hunter, which is now the China Buffet. And that gentleman is a California resident that owns that property, and I've talked to him through the city about, you know, us purchasing the tavern license many years ago. And I offered him $100,000 for the license, and I told him I'd sell it back to him for $1 if he was going to sell his building. But he has a 10-year lease with the China Buffet, so we knew that wasn't going to happen for a while, and he said no, that he was not interested in selling the tavern license and buying it back for $1. So Ms. Tarkanian worked very hard to get us a tavern restricted because we don't really care about gaming. We have live music, and we just want to keep doing what we're doing. We're not changing anything. And this way we don't have to have 55% food and 55% liquor and 45% food.
Okay. Okay, this was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in this item? Seeing no one from the public, I will turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Rogan?
My only question really is for staff. With regard to that church, I believe that church is closed, correct? Do we know?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Peter Lowenstein for the record. I was talking with the applicant who has acknowledged that the Potters have vacated that building.
That was my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Would you like to make a motion on the application?
I would make a motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Subject to staff's conditions. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, that item is final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 35, I will be abstaining. My family's in the cannabis industry, and we sell to multiple dispensaries in town. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 35, SUP 76579, special use permit for a public hearing. Applicant Nevada Organic Remedies, LLC, owner Bridge Group Investments, LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 1,146 square foot marijuana dispensary use at 1725 South Rainbow Boulevard, Suite 21. Staff recommends approval. Can I get the staff report?
Mr. Chairman, the subject site complies with all minimum distance separations as set forth by Title 19.12, and staff finds the use can be conducted in a compatible and harmonious manner with the existing surrounding land uses. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this special use permit. Please note that there is an updated special map included in your supplemental information packet. Also note that there are additional letters of protest and support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Slotman?
Yes, Chairman, through you, just want to make a disclosure that my construction company has built cultivation facilities, production facilities, and dispensaries in the past. I've never worked with this group. I've always voted on these matters, but just wanted to go ahead and put that out there that I have, and there's no conflict here, so I'll be voting on this matter today.
Thank you, Commissioner Slotman. This is, please state your name for the record and in your address. Thank you.
Good evening, Ryan Arnold, 2620 Regatta Drive, here tonight representing The Source, Nevada Organic Remedies. As staff indicated, we are applying for a dispensary. It's a 1,288 square foot location, meets all the requirements. And I apologize, I had a jacket, didn't think I was going to need it, so I didn't bring it. But if you have any questions, Commissioner, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, this is noticed as a public hearing. Anybody wish to be heard on item number 35, please come forward, state your name for the record. You got 3 minutes.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Graham Coder, 7110 Doe Avenue. I just have a couple of remarks. So I'm a proud resident of Vegas. My kids here tonight are 5th generation Vegas. We're here. We love this town. I became aware of this only last night, as my neighbors did when we got a notification of this. This seems maybe intentionally underhanded. We just thought it was pretty horrific that we only received this in the mail last night. I'd like to ask the City Council to pull this from tonight's agenda and allow for a neighborhood meeting to be held. I go with a very dense congregation of church friends and neighbors here who would like to be heard on this matter. If you look at this map right here, within the circle, you see a city park where my children play baseball on the bottom left in the circle. You see to the right, Bonanza High School full of at-risk youth who are going to walk by this marijuana dispensary. It seems like an inappropriate place that may have slipped through the cracks here tonight. Whether or not the owner knows it, weed's not safe. I'm a federal agent. I've spent the last 10 years combating the cartel with marijuana, okay? There's a reason these businesses, these dispensaries have such high security. They're protecting their assets, sure, but they're protecting it from the criminal element. And this is something I know, okay? You can be a business, you can make money off of it. I believe in democracy, and if the people vote for it, that's fine. But I would also like to put that on the record that this is going to be a problem in this neighborhood. And I just can't sleep at night without coming here tonight to ask for this to be withdrawn, for a neighborhood meeting to be held, for the people who bring their kids to play baseball here, for the people who send their kids to Bonanza High School, where my kids are going to go to high school. I just think that this is going to bring the roaches of society out, those who would steal and rob from this to get it. With a marijuana dispensary, you need to secure it. You need a place to grow your seeds. You need a place to put your money. It's not federally legal yet, which means that they have to invest their money knowing that they can't bank 100% in federal banks. So that cash, and let's be clear, it's a cash industry, has to go somewhere, and it's going to go nearby, and it's going to get robbed. If the council has any questions for me. I guess I'm not sure what the process is, but I'd like to be pulled from tonight's agenda so there could be a neighborhood meeting.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard on item number 35? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and go back to the applicant.
Yeah, I respect his comments. You know, the state law is the state law. We meet all the requirements. Again, to clarify, it is a dispensary. We will not be growing anything. This is all product that is brought in. The source has several locations in the valley. I encourage everyone to go and visit and see for yourself. It is by far one of the best operations I've ever experienced. It's not the type of clientele I think a lot of folks are fearful of. I wish I could add more to ease his concerns, but again, this is something that was voted in the law, and we meet the requirements of separation. So I ask for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Rhodes.
Mr. Anderson, would you be interested in meeting with the neighbors if we obeyed this for a month or so?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Here's my only concern. And again, we have, his comment about the nefarious nature of the notification, we obviously have nothing to do with that. It's the city process, so I'm not sure what happened with the notifications. We have no problem meeting. The only thing I would ask is if there's any possibility of us doing that between leaving here with an approval and when it goes to city council. The only reason I ask that is because we're under a ticking clock here. We were one of the most recent awardees, if you will, for a license, and we have to perfect that by, I think it's December 4th. And to get this thing built and operational in that time frame, a delay is detrimental. So, you know, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't request allowing us to move to the next stage with the requirement that we have that neighborhood meeting, we're more than happy to sit with them and go through our process, invite them down to our existing operations, the whole thing. We have nothing to hide here. But that is the primary concern right now, is that timing is unfortunately of the essence.
Mr. Vice Chair, if I might, I just want to interject here. There was two things. One, I want to make sure it's clear. Nearly 600 notices were mailed on this item. 594 notices were mailed in compliance with the open meeting law and in compliance with our city ordinance. Second, this item is actually final action this evening. So now would be the time to obey and hold a neighborhood meeting, because it's not going on to City Council, if that is the agreement between the board and the applicant.
My apologies. I had assumed this was going to City Council, given its nature, so that was unintentional. If that's the case, if it does end up being final action here and it remains that way, yeah, I mean, it would be the same as if we were going to City Council. So if we can do it within a 2-week period, I don't know if the neighbor's amenable to that. That would be preferred, but I'm open to
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Chair. So I don't believe we can adequately notice a meeting in 2 weeks. We kind of already have needed to do that. So I would ask that if there is an abeyance request, particularly for a neighborhood meeting that requires proper notification, that we give it a 30-day abeyance, please.
Mr. Vice Chair, that would be my motion for a 30-day abeyance for a neighborhood meeting, please.
Okay, Mr. Arnold, do you agree to the 30-day? Okay, you heard the motion?
And that is to
Yes vote is to obey for 30 days.
And that is to the August 13th meeting?
August 13th.
Thank you.
And that motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. You good? Okay, moving on. Moving on to items number 40 through 42. Number 40, abeyance VAR 76469, applicant Rhythms Dance Studio, owner 4545 West Sahara Ave, LLC, for possible action request for a variance to allow 47 parking spaces where 173 spaces are required at 4545 West Sahara Avenue, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. Related item, abeyance SUP 76470, for possible action on request for a special use permit for proposed 7,800 square foot liquor establishment use with 1,000 square feet of outdoor seating with a waiver to allow a 150-foot distance separation from a similar use where 1,500 feet is required. Staff recommends denial. And related item number 42, abeyance renotification SUP 76471, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed 7,800 square foot nightclub use with 1,000 square feet of outdoor seating with a waiver to allow a 385-foot distance separation from a church house of worship where 1,500 feet is required. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, both the proposed tavern restricted liquor establishment and the nightclub uses require a 1,500 feet distance separation from any church house of worship. At the time of application, it was noted that a church house of worship was located approximately 385 feet from the subject site. During a recent field visit, it was noted that a second church house of worship was located directly adjacent to the subject parcel, resulting in a 0-foot distance separation. This distance separation may be waived at the discretion of Planning Commission. However, staff finds no evidence of unique or extraordinary circumstance to support the parking variance request, and that the proposed uses are too intense for the subject site. Staff therefore recommends denial of all applications. Please note that there is an updated special map included in your supplemental information package. Also note that there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant here tonight? Is the applicant for number 40 for Rhythms Dance Studio here tonight? Okay, I don't see an applicant, but I still would like to hear the application. I mean, it's an abeyance item. They were notified. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in this item? Please come forward. Need your name and address to the record, please, sir.
Alejandro Llano, Jano, 2621 Castlewood Drive, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89102.
Thank you.
As a member of I'm a resident, I live behind the premises, and I'm also one of the members for the church. There's right next to it. There is not true that it's 300 and something foot. We are next door. So we are very, very concerned about our kids, because their kids play like right next door, you know. This is our biggest concern about us, you know, be concerned about our kids, because they were playing, and they've been having a lot of parties, even though they don't have a permit yet. I don't know if it's noticed, and they will be having a lot of issues already, even though they don't have the permits. So we will request to you guys take a look on that, and I don't know why they didn't put us on the map, but we came in and we see that we're not on the map. There was another church across the street. They're the only ones there on the map, and we're not.
Okay, appreciate you coming out tonight. Anyone else like to be heard in this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission. Commissioner Rogan, are you okay with hearing this item tonight?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, just to answer your question, it appears as though that staff just found out about your church recently, so they did put it on the supplemental materials, but the materials that you probably have didn't list it, but it is listed on the materials that we have in front of us. Mr. Chairman, I have concerns, the same concerns that staff raised regarding the parking and the intensity of the use, and therefore I make a motion to deny these three items, 40, 41, and 42.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll take one at a time.
Okay.
So we'll go with item number 40. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your vote.
Thanks.
Yes vote is for denial. Please post. And that motion carries. Commissioner Rogan, you want to keep going with 41 and
Yes, please, same motion.
motion on the floor? Motion for denial. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And 42, the same motion for denial, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. There's a motion on the floor for denial, item number 42. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items are final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you. Moving on to related items 43 through 44. 43 is GPA 76550, applicant Americo Real Estate Company, owner Baljinder Singh Randahat, for possible action on a request for a general plan amendment from SC to LIR at 3951 North Rancho Drive, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Related item number 44, ZON 76551, for possible action on a request for rezoning from C1 to CM. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed general plan amendment and rezoning provides for a variety of compatible business, warehouse, wholesale, office, and limited industrial uses that are intended to be located away from areas of low and medium density residential development. Staff has determined the proposed general plan designation and zoning district are not compatible with the existing limited commercial and single-family residential developments in the area. Therefore, staff recommends denial of these applications. Please note that there are additional letters of support and protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here tonight for items number 43 through 44? Hi, I'll need your name and address to the record. If you could tell us about the application, please.
My name is Mike Vargovich. I am the president of U-Haul Company of Nevada.
Could you spell your last name
South
for us?
Decatur. South Decatur.
Could you spell your last name for us, please?
V as in Victor, A-R-G-O, V as in Victor, I-C-H.
Thank you very much.
Okay, what we're proposing here is a extension of our existing business at 3969 North Rancho. We have a large storage and truck sharing facility on the property. In between our property and the skating rink, the Crystal Palace, there's a .63 acre parcel that we would like to put a mobile storage facility on, which is being determined as a warehouse facility. The mobile storage is I'll say, a newer method of getting people to a more convenient means of storage. In order for us to allow the use, we do need to get the general plan amendment and the rezoning for the property. My opinion is, based on what we're trying to accomplish on that small piece of property, it will enhance the area that's been vacant since 1937. The piece itself has got limited access, limited availability, and our proposed use is, even although it's a warehouse, it is just another way of people storing away their belongings. We'll have people coming to our facility with the boxes, and we'll have us taking boxes to people. There's a lot of different ways that I can try to sell our U-Box business to you folks. But in general, it's a warehouse facility. I do have a rendition photo, if I can figure out how to get you to...
You could put it right in front of you on the, it'll come up on the overhead. Yeah, turn it one more time. There you go.
There we go. Okay. So going from the empty lot to something like this is absolutely going to enhance that area along Rancho. Of course, we'll be complying, this is a rendition photo, but we'll be complying with any requirements the city would have. Of course, we'll be doing landscaping and all of that so that it really takes an area that is C1, C2, and we're real close to that same type of use. I have talked with the skating rink, Crystal Palace, the owners there. I've talked with the Cobblestone Construction, which is right behind. Then there's a trailer repair place beyond that. On the other side of the street, it is, I believe, on the other side of the street, it's C2 with the Veterans Hospital, and then, of course, our property from there up to the corner. So if you have, I'll be happy to answer any questions for you, and I would ask for your approval.
Thank you very much. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner, Vice Chair DeSalvio?
I just have one question, not so much for the applicant, but for staff. Under the CM, the commercial industrial, I guess my question would be, why wouldn't we just go C2? Because I think under the industrial, I mean, pretty much anything goes under that term, right? You could do rocket fuel there if you wanted to. And it gives me a great concern that that land can then be used for just about anything to that neighborhood, so.
Through you, Commissioner.
Why not C2?
Jonathan Boyles, Department of Planning. The proposal for the development of this site is going to encompass a warehouse facility for mobile pod storage. The warehouse facility is a permitted use under the proposed CM zoning district, which is why he's asking for CM. The C2 district does not allow for a warehouse as a permissible land use.
Okay, but am I correct that once it goes industrial, like pretty much anything can go on that land?
Through you, Chairman Cherry, yes, you are correct. Once it is hard zoned to CM, they are going to be able to develop it with any permitted use underneath that land use zoning designation. So you are correct, yes.
I guess to Vice Chair's point, though, if it was C2, can't they apply for an SUP to have a mini storage?
Mr. Chairman, it's not warehousing is not a use that's allowed outside of our industrial zones. So you can only do a warehouse as a permissible use, whether by right, conditional use, or SUP within our industrial zones. It's not something that's available to be asked for in a C2.
Okay, and this is where I get a little hung up because it looks like a storage Sounds like a storage facility to me.
Mr. Chairman, if I could speak, the proposal that we're trying to do here, it's U-Haul Company. We've been at that site, the other 5, almost 6 acres since 1997. And I do agree with the other comments that yes, once this gets rezoned, that does open that up to, I guess we could put something else there. I can assure you that being that it's U-Haul and being that it's this level of business, it is going to be it's a storage facility as determined by planning. It's a storage warehouse. That's what it will be from here till eternity. I do understand the concerns. But I asked for that approval so that we can move forward with this particular project.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Salvio.
Okay, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around this one, because, we're not talking about out by the Speedway here or somewhere, we're talking right on Rancho, putting industrial there that you guys decide you want to flip it because the economy takes a crapper or whatever.
Yeah.
Then somebody wants to put jet fuel there, they can. So my question to staff is, how do we then, if this is what he's submitting, if there's any deviation in any way, shape, or form, would that applicant have to then come back? Once we give up that zoning, there's no backsies, and I'm just concerned about that. And I'd rather see it go a C2 with a special use permit in some way, shape, or form than go industrial on Rancho, right backing up to a community. That's just, to me, that's not harmonious and compatible, and that's my only rub. I think you got a beautiful product here, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder or take it away from you. I'm just trying to protect the community that lives around there, whether they're up here to speak or not. I just want to make sure at the end of the day, I felt comfortable about it.
Right.
Through you, Chairman Cherry, you are correct. Once the property is hard zoned, they will be allowed to develop underneath any permissible use underneath Title 1912. However, the warehouse distribution center land use is not permitted at all within the C2 zoning district, so we would not be able to do a special use permit for that land use in that zoning designation. However, any future development on the site would require a site development plan review and would have to come back in front of this body.
Okay. Commissioner Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I too had a chance to visit the site, and given its current condition, obviously it's going to do the area a lot of good to be developed. I take the comments very seriously with concern in terms of future development zoning opportunities. When you look at Rancho and the adjacent properties across the street and the things happening around the area, it could benefit from this type of product. So I would like to motion for approval on items 43 and 44.
We'll take them one at a time. Item number 43, we have a motion for approval. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
And item 44.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval on item number 44. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will both go forward to City Council and be heard as a part of their agenda on August 21st, 2019.
Thank you. Moving on to related items 45 through 50. 45, GPA 76573, applicant owner Misty Rose Holdings LLC et al. For possible action on request for a general plan amendment from GC to LIR on 1.28 acres at 1616, 1622, and 1630 Sunset Drive, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Related item 46, ZON 76574, for possible action request for a rezoning from C2 to M Industrial. Staff recommends denial. Related item 47, VAR 76575, for possible action request for a variance to allow a 95-foot wide lot width where 100 feet is required, and to allow an 8-foot front yard wall where 5 feet is the maximum allowed. Staff recommends denial. Related item 48, SDR 76576, for possible action request for a site development plan review for heavy machinery and equipment storage development. Staff recommends denial. Related item 49, VAR 76577, for possible action request for a variance to allow an 8-foot front yard wall where 5 feet is the maximum allowed. Staff recommends denial. And finally, related item number 50, SDR 76578, for possible action request for a site development plan review for a heavy machinery and equipment storage development. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed general plan designation and zoning district is intended to provide for heavy manufacturing industries in locations where they will be compatible with and not adversely impact adjacent land uses. The district is intended to be located away from all residential development. In addition, the proposed site development plans require variances to comply with Title 19 standards. Because of the adjacent residential uses and the associated variances, staff finds the proposed general plan amendment, rezoning, and site development plans to be incompatible with other properties in the area. Staff therefore recommends denial of all applications. Please note that there is an updated staff report containing neighborhood meeting information in your supplemental information packet. Also note that there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Ricky Barlow for the record, 3172 North Rainbow Suite 202. Glad to be standing before the commissioners here today on this item representing the applicant. As you see, and as you all very well know, specifically coming off of the Rancho Corridor, the item right before this one, this particular site has been owned by two families for over a decade each plus, and the site has actually been operating as a landscape yard for over a decade. And it was the city of Las Vegas that approached the applicants as well as the other properties surrounding this who are also coming forward within the next few months with the same application, because the designation of what they're using the yard for and what they have been using the yard for is in non-compliance of the city's code. And so the city asked us to come forward to appropriately zone the landscape yard, which they basically stated that we can only operate under this designation. And so I asked the city if, in fact, understanding this area as well, and specifically the key location of where it currently exists, every property to our north, west, south, and east sides are all operating under an industrial use, but they're not zoned that way. And right on Sunset, on the west side of the street, is the county line. And there's a used car lot right in front of the client's properties that has approximately 50-plus cars on the site. But that's the county side. And so this entire area right now, unfortunately, because of the organic growth of what's been happening there for over a decade, the city has stepped up and asked for each property owner to come forward and appropriately zone each site in order for us to operate and continue to operate so that we're not putting these small businesses out of business. One of the key properties that I'm representing today, two of them actually, both parcels, Misty Rose and Mr. Lopez, their sites have actually been sites where they've been awarded the contract to assist with the expansion of US 95 and I-15. And so as far as the heavy industrial use, the only thing that will be stored there will be vehicles that are maybe just a little bit larger than an F-150. We're not looking to bring in high, heavy utility dump trucks, anything like that, because that is not the business model of what these applicants and business owners have been doing. And so we're here before the city at the city's request with this zone change in order for this company to continue to operate and function like they've been doing for over a decade. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we had a neighborhood meeting, and I went and also with our team walked the neighborhood, spoke to neighbors. We had a neighborhood meeting on last Tuesday, and there was no one that showed up to the neighborhood meeting with the exception of city staff. And so with that, that was a telltale sign to the applicant that the use, being that it has been there all this time, it's really not impacting the neighborhood in the sense because there's no vehicles that enter or basically protrude through Sunset. They basically coming off of Vegas Drive onto Sunset and back out to Vegas to continue to move their storage trucks. So I'm requesting approval of the item, and with any conditions or special conditions that the commission would like to place on it, I'll be happy to do that, because I've heard the vice chair's concerns on the last item, and I think it's only fair, understanding the position of wanting to protect, the core of the neighborhood, and I support that. And so if there's any conditions that staff would like to place on the item, we'd be happy to do that as well. We just don't want to place anyone out of business that have been operating for over a decade doing the same thing. And the city approached the client.
Thank you, Mr. Barlow. Okay, this was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to hold this item in abeyance for 30 days if I could, just to meet with Mr. Barlow and client and visit the site and just get a better understanding and just really understand in its totality the project.
Okay. Mr. Barlow, are you in agreement with the request?
I am. I'll be happy to meet with the commissioner, absolutely. And congratulations to you, Commissioner, by the way, on your appointment to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, so
And what is the date? And what is the date?
Would you like to make a motion for it?
I'd like to make a motion for, to hold the items, really, what is it, 45 through 50, hold them through till August 13th.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I just want to make sure the motion was just to hold it so the commissioner can meet with the applicant, not anything about another neighborhood meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. To related items 51 through 52. 51 is GPA 76580, applicant owner For Him For Life, Inc., for possible action on request for a general plan amendment from PF to SC at 800 North Bruce Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. And related item number 52, ZON 76581, for possible action on request for a rezoning from CV to C1. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff finds the proposed service commercial general plan designation and limited commercial zoning district would permit land uses to intents directly abutting the existing residential developments. Allowed uses such as restaurants and general personal services are typically open past normal business hours and would introduce public activity that is incompatible with the detached single-family residences that currently exist in the immediate area. Therefore, staff recommends denial of both requests. Please note that there is an updated staff report containing neighborhood meeting information in your supplemental information packet. Also note that there are additional letters of support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address for the record again, Mr. Barlow?
I'm sorry?
Name and address for the record.
Yes, for the record, Ricky Barlow, 3172 North Rainbow, Suite 202. Thank you, Commissioner. And on this item, this is a wonderful piece of infill, as I would like to put it. Specifically, when you have an infill site and have an opportunity to work with the neighbors to identify the highest and best use that they would support and come in agreement with the applicant, I think it's the best and the most win-win for a site like this. This is a site that is unique within itself because it sits just east of Cashman Field, and everyone understands the conversations that have been going on in regards to the repurposing of Cashman Field and the possibility of the MLS stadium. And so with that, the neighbors are very concerned in regards to what's coming into their neighborhood and how, in fact, the developments and the new developments that are coming into the neighborhood, how that will be impactful. And so we hosted a neighborhood meeting on last Monday with the neighbors, and we had neighbors such as Mr. Peter, his wife Barbara, Miss Sherry, Miss Erica, and her husband Jose, who all attended the meeting. And we shared with them that we want to bring a development into this site that is harmonious, and that is something that they could live with versus bringing something that would be impactful and that would basically damage or impact their community to the negative. And so we had a very good meeting, and what we shared with them as far as the mixed-use designation as far as what we were looking to bring into the area. And if we can go to the overhead, I'm not sure if, can you all see it this way, or you want it the other way?
No, it's good.
This is good? So on the front piece of the parcel, which is basically the westernmost portion of the parcel on Bruce, we're looking to basically have a commercial frontage with approximately 12 units of retail on the front facing Bruce. And the neighbors really enjoyed that because they could see themselves and envision themselves walking from their neighborhood over to the local Starbucks or sandwich shop or a dry cleaners inside of this facility. Right now, a lot of the neighbors have to leave their home in their vehicles and travel as far as Eastern in order to receive the necessary amenities. And so we asked would they prefer to have all apartments on this piece of land, and unanimously they said no. And so we said, well, do you all mind if we basically mix it up? Because over the course of the conversations and the meetings that I've had with a variety of neighbors there, they said they would rather it be broken up as far as having some softer retail on the front, nothing that we're looking to have 24 hours to negatively impact the neighborhood, nor are we looking for any retail to come in basically with any liquor sales because of the adjacency to the school, which is only less than a couple hundred feet from this property line. And on the east portion of the property, we're looking to do no more than 2-story of residential units. And so we worked with the neighbors and had them select which style of unit they would like to basically abut the commercial piece. And they basically went through a conversation and selected which one of the units they would support on this particular land development that we're looking and propose to bring forward to the council later as far as a site development plan. And so today, before you, is the request for the GPA as well as the zone change in order that we may continue to work with the neighbors and bring back the appropriate development that will support this neighborhood and the residents will be able to embrace at the same time. And I believe that we do have some residents here, Mr. Chairman, that may want to share a few words, and so I'll step aside and allow them to come forward if in fact they choose to do so.
Thank you very much. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing one person. Can you get your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Peter Watson, 720 North 17th Street.
How you doing, Mr. Watson?
I attended the meeting, and he is correct. We like the idea of what he proposed, the mixed use, the property, the way it was laid out, the drawings that they showed us. I think they pretty well addressed all your concerns when you had the motion to deny this. I would prefer you let him move forward with this project.
Thanks for coming out. Thanks for your comments. Anyone else from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Williams.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at the project in its totality and again, what it's going to do to the area, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yep. Before we make a motion, if I could just make a couple of comments.
Please, Commissioner Slavin.
Hello, Ms. Barlow.
How are you, sir?
Good. So I just wanted to make sure, I mean, because this is in ward number 3, so basically we're just trying to get the GP.
Yeah, it's actually in Ward 3.
It's what?
It's in Ward 3.
Okay. And no problem. I have no problem if you make a motion in my ward. I just wanted to put a couple of comments out there before you did. So I guess your client's trying to get the entitlements right now for a future development. they have ideas on what they're wanting to do, but they don't know exactly what they're wanting to do. When do you think a site development review would be brought before us, or, some proposal for what you want to construct?
The site development review will be coming forward this year, sir.
Okay.
We've been working with the neighbors because originally, the developer wanted to come in with all apartment-style housing. But as Mr. Peter would tell you, and all of the neighbors, that was something that they balked against wholeheartedly because of the impact of the school that is just less than 200 feet from the property line to property line, and also the impact of traffic that they were very concerned about. And so, working with the developer, we basically stepped the site development plan review back in order to work with the neighbors, to come up with a concept that they would support. And so for that, we'll be bringing that forward this year.
Okay, and there's some pretty pictures, but just one on the record that we're not voting on that tonight. We're voting on just the land use, the GPA.
And that's why I
and the
wanted to
zoning.
basically present that, to let you know that it's all in tandem.
Right.
And that, I understand I was putting the cart before the horse, but I want to at least let the remaining commissioners and the new commissioners understand the totality of what the conversations have been from a historical standpoint. So I can appreciate that, Commissioner.
Okay, and then this little corridor, I mean, there's a lot of multifamily and a lot of residential there. I know it's directly on the street, and it kind of fits to have a mixed-use development there. I just want to make sure that we don't overbuild it with too much commercial when we build that. And it's going to depend on what happens in the area and how, what happens with Cashman across the street. But we just need to be cognizant of what's going on, because I'm just concerned about the whole thing becoming commercial and with so much residential right there.
Yeah, we have absolutely no interest in going 100% commercial because we've worked so many months with the neighbors, Commissioner, to get to this point. And so there would be hundreds of neighbors, as Mr. Peter would tell you, that would be out here if in fact we were moving in that direction. The owners have no interest in going back to where they've been, because it's been a struggle to get to this point, to whereas we have neighbors in support of where we are today. And so for that, I have to compliment staff as well, because they've basically pushed to make sure, specifically for your concern, that we have the appropriate percentage of commercial versus the residential. And so they've been very deliberate in their approach in regards to how, in fact, we roll this out.
Okay. All right. Well, as long as we have that clear for when it comes back before us, because we're going to look at that pretty close and want to make sure we're not getting too fast food or anything too close to residential, anything that's really going to hurt that area. But I appreciate you stating that. And if Commissioner Williams wants to make a motion, I'll let you.
I apologize, Commissioner Schlabman. I looked at the wrong item.
No problem.
On the ward.
So, Mr. Chairman, on item 51, GPA 76580, move to approve, subject to staff's conditions, based on the testimony heard tonight.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, and Mr. Chairman, on item number 52, ZON 76581, move to approve, subject to staff's conditions, based on testimony heard tonight.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will go to council and be heard as a part of their agenda on August 21st, 2019.
May 3rd?
I'm sorry?
May 3rd?
No, August 21st.
Oh, August 21st.
Yeah, no, we're not going to make you wait a year.
I thought you said
just
May
a month.
3rd. I just wanted to correct you. And Commissioner, just in closing, when the site development plan does come forward, as we continue to work with the neighbors, I would like to have an opportunity to meet with you so that you will be a part of those conversations as well to address your concerns, sir.
Please do. Thank you.
And that was August
21st.
21st.
As a part of the 11 a.m. agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to items number 53 through 55, out of an abundance of caution, I will be abstaining. My company has a financial interest that works directly with the principals that are the applicants, so I will be abstaining and turn it over to Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Related items 53 to 55. 53, GPA 76598, applicant owner 634 North Main Street, LLC, for possible action and request for a general plan amendment for a mixed-use to light industrial research at the northeast corner of Bonanza Road and Main Street. Staff recommends denial. Item number 54, ZON 76599, for possible action on a request for rezoning from C1 Limited Commercial to Commercial Industrial. Staff recommends denial. And last but not least, item 55, SDR 76600, for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a proposed 62,976 square foot warehouse development and a 10,000 square foot shade structure with waiver for Appendix F, interim downtown Las Vegas Area 2 development standards. Staff recommends denial. May I have the staff report, please?
Mr. Commissioner, the subject site is located within the downtown Las Vegas Cashman District, which allows all deviations from Title 19 development standards to be addressed as waivers associated with the site development plan review. The applicant has requested multiple waivers of Appendix F interim downtown Las Vegas development standards to allow reduced required on-site parking, building setbacks, landscape buffers, residential adjacency setbacks, and to allow increased perimeter wall height and lot coverage throughout the site. Due to the multiple waivers of Title 19 development standards associated with this project, staff has determined that the proposed project is not compatible with surrounding development in the area and will have a negative impact to the adjacent single-family residential properties located to the north and east of the subject site. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the project. Please note that additional letters of protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please state your name for the record.
Sure. Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Todd Kessler, 261 Las Vegas Boulevard North. I'd like to welcome the new commissioners and say hello to our existing commissioners. It is my pleasure to present this application for a general plan amendment from MXU to LIR, as well as a corresponding rezoning from C1 to CM, as well as an additional SDR with corresponding waivers. This 62,976,000 square foot warehouse will be an integral component of the new Circa Resort Casino and Hotel scheduled to open in December of 2020. It also will help the facilities at the D and Golden Gate Casino hotels. We believe this project is appropriate. I'd like to talk briefly about a few reasons for that. We were very mindful at all times of the residential component to the east and to the north. Our design incorporated a sloped roof, which you typically do not find on a warehouse. We additionally put rounded corners or cupolas along Main and along the First Street corners. Those have a lot of windows, letting in a lot of light. Those are typical things you don't see in a typical warehouse. We also used a color variation to help break up the scheme and help the eye be more palatable. We used masonry walls that were more reminiscent of that time frame. My architect is here tonight, and if there's any need for him to discuss how he came up with some of the designs, he's happy to talk about that. As it relates to the rezone, if you look at this property, we have CM property on all three other existing hard corners on this corner of Main and Bonanza, as well as M zoning along the west side of Main, as well as CM zoning along the east side of Main. We have a series of corresponding waivers. Those are really due to many of the unique nature, I should say, of the kind of downtown experience that is happening along this corridor. We have a 10-foot fence request in lieu of an 8-foot height. Remember, that is due mainly to security reasons as well as screening reasons, because there'll be activity inside of the warehouse zone, let's call it, or inside the site. The higher fence will help screen that activity from the residences to the east. It'll also allow for additional security, as I indicated before. One of our other waivers is a parking-related waiver from 38 spots to the 63 that are required pursuant to code. As I indicated in my justification letter, there's not going to be more than 3 full-time employees at this location, and so the need for, there'll be more drivers and related other things, but the need for parking in a typical warehouse fashion is not there. Our landscape was designed, I'll say, with some of the challenges that occur in this environment. We shortened some of our landscape buffers intentionally, working with staff and others to think about how we thought about what could occur in these areas. That's hence some of the reasons for the shorter landscape buffers. Just so you're aware, we held a neighborhood meeting for the GPA on June 12th. I had many conversations with landowners since then. I had the pleasure today of meeting with Heidi Swank, who, of course, is with the Nevada Preservation Foundation, and she came up with some great ideas, and ownership is receptive to those. We will continue to work with her between now and City Council as that relates to that. I would like to thank staff for their help in this matter, as well as the neighbors who came out and spoke with me, as well as the planning commissioners I had the opportunity to speak with, given the new agenda and new situations with everybody, as well as Mrs. Swank for her meeting today. In summary, I simply ask that you approve it, subject to staff's conditions. I'm happy to answer any questions, and with that, I'll pass the torch.
Thank you, sir. This is noticed as a public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to be heard on these agenda items? Please step forward. Come to the mic, state your name for the record, and 3 minutes each, please.
My name is Oliver Moore. I own two properties, actually. One at my real residence, 733 North First Street, and the other property, rental property, 700 North First Street, which is right across the street from their supposed, what is it, a garage, or what the hell is it? I don't know. But anyway, Bonanza and Main Street is one of the oldest intersections in town, historically. I think every one of you know that. And I could actually go to the corner there, which is not too far from my rental house. I could hit a golf ball, even at over 70 years old I am, right down to Main Street Station, which is, you know, prime casino, a very good casino. And all of you know that our main bread and butter in Las Vegas is our casinos, right? That's where we generate all our money for our city, basically. To build a damn garage coming out a couple blocks from downtown is really asinine. And anybody that approves such stupidity needs to get their head examined. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard on this item, please come forward. State your name for the record.
I'm Diana Luck. Address is 10313 Pompey Place.
Please repeat your last name. I didn't catch it.
Luck. And we own a couple of houses in that area. We oppose the mixed use of it. We want you to be mindful of the community that does live there. It's a residential area. There are lots of families and children that live there, and they're mostly one-story homes. We can see the downtown lights from where the homes are built, and we don't want that taken away from us. The homes are built in 1942, 1943, so they're really historical buildings. They were built in the during the Second World War. And the Nevada Biltmore Hotel was on the same site as well. That was built in 1944. And we want to ask you to consider preserving the district, leaving it as it is, and not to approve the zone change so that the community that lives there can enjoy it. Okay.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to be heard? Please come forward.
I just feel like this is a little too low for me. Good evening. Heidi Swank. I'm with the Nevada Preservation Foundation, 330 West Washington, 89106. We did meet with the applicant today, and while we do share some of the concerns that the neighborhood has about the compatibility of this building across the street from the one-story bungalows that are the Biltmore bungalows, and we think that anytime we're going to diverge from the design standards, that I would ask that the Planning Commission take that very seriously. It does set a lot of precedent going forward, and so we want to be very mindful of the neighbors. So we've received a call from the neighbors regarding this project, and we met with the applicants and came up with some ideas on ways that should the Planning Commission and City Council decide to approve this, that it could be made a little bit softer and have a little bit more easier reception, hopefully, by the neighbors. So some of the things that we would suggest is on First Street, I know there's a smaller setback than there is on Main and Bonanza, and we would ask that that be put back and increased to the same size as on Main and Bonanza. It does provide a little bit more room for landscaping, and since all of these homes face this building are on First Street, that seems a good way to kind of soften that look. We would also ask that instead of palm trees, I know that's a go-to plant for the city, eucalyptus trees actually could work much better in a space like this. They are equally upright, they don't take a lot of horizontal space, they don't create a lot of shade that makes it hospitable, but it does have a lot more greenery. I know that this may not be on the city's list of preferred trees, but I think that's something we need to consider going forward. It does make it a lot softer look when you're looking at your living room window across the street. We also would ask that cat claw or kind of similar vine be added to the wall along First Street in order to, again, soften that look, provide some greenery for the view from those houses on First Street. And also along the landscaping, we would suggest that on the northern part of that wall along First Avenue could be added some text, something along the lines of "Welcome to Biltmore Bungalows, established 1942," just to provide a little bit more of a welcoming entrance and, again, some more softness for the neighbors. As far as the warehouse itself and the color scheme, we would suggest replacing the square windows with larger, elongated, obscured windows that have lighting behind them that come on at night to kind of activate and give that building a bit of energy. So again, it looks like not like a warehouse at night when you're looking out your living room window. We would also change the color scheme, and I actually brought our kind of go-to decades of color schemes, if we can take a look at this. So here we have just generally a 1940s color scheme. If we could go not necessarily exactly with these colors, but the more muted colors that are from the 1940s, not the general beiges and whites that are ubiquitous in Las Vegas. So again, we do have some concerns about the compatibility of a warehouse at this space, but should it go forward, we would just hope that there would be some modifications made that would make it a little bit more friendly to the neighbors. Thank you.
And thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard? Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. Excuse me. My name is Corey Vinson. I live at 2153 Bridlewood Drive, 89119. I moved into that neighborhood in 1962 with my family. My dad was hired by the RJ as a writer, and I lived there through my teens. And we enjoyed the neighborhood. We walked up to Main and Fremont Street to go to the movies. I used to walk up to the library, and it's been a wonderful neighborhood, and I still own the property at 105 Palm Lane, which is just a couple blocks down from one block off of First Street. It's a historic neighborhood, and I think we're all trying to help preserve our historic neighborhoods now. And I don't think a warehouse in that area is very much of a preservation of the neighborhood. We all pay taxes, and our money for the redevelopment of downtown should be also portioned for helping the neighbors keep their properties up and keep it a nice neighborhood. And I don't think that a warehouse with lights and that street, First Street, is very narrow. And the people that live there park on the street. They have their children, and it's not a place for trucks, big lights, and a business at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard, please step forward, state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Charmaine Lai. I own a property on 604 North First Street. Many of us have purchased properties over there and have spent money to improve the neighborhood, and we feel that having a warehouse there would not be suitable. There are other places that are more suitable for warehouses. I would ask that you deny the zoning changes. The houses in that area are mostly single-story family homes, families of children that live there. We do enjoy the beautiful downtown lights, and we do not want any structure higher than the one-story homes. Since the properties there were built in 1940s as part of the Boulder Dam, we'd like to enjoy and preserve the historical nature of the area and not have anything industrial or warehousing or anything there. There are other places are better suited for warehouses, and we would appreciate your consideration in the denial. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and back to the applicant.
Sure, I just, bring up a couple comments that I heard just to address them. To start from the front, it's not a garage, it's really a warehouse. There's not anything similar to a garage that's going on over there. Again, we had a great meeting with Heidi today at 12:30. She came up with some great ideas. The colors look beautiful. We were receptive to many of the things she spoke of, and like I indicated in my preamble, we're going to continue to work with them over the next, between here and City Council, which is August 21st. Just quickly from Mrs. Vincent's perspective, in our design, we were very mindful of the residential to the east, and one of the key things you'll see is our only entry point into the access is along Main. And Main is a corridor already, in essence, of traffic and of that nature. So there'll be no entry or no access or no activity along First Street. That is, as well as Bonanza, and that helps preserve some of the safety concerns that she was mentioning. As I indicated, there's a warehouse caddy corner, and additionally, the other caddy corners are CM. With that, I'm happy to take any questions or comments from the commission.
Thank you. At this time, I'll turn it over to the commission. Anybody wish to make a comment?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I think that what I'd like to do on this item is hold items 53 through 55. I think that listening to both yours and Ms. Heidi Swank's recommendations, I'd like to get a better idea of what those things are really going to look like. And so if I could, I'd like to hold this item until August 13th.
If I could be heard on that, through you, Chairman or Vice Chairman?
It's over to the commission right now, so just hang tight.
Yeah, I'd like to hold.
Does anybody else wish any comments? Commissioner Toussaint?
I do like the change that Assemblywoman Swank said to change the palm trees to eucalyptus. I'm not a real fan of palm trees. They all look like Bart Simpson when they start trimming them at 10 and 2. I mean, they just don't look good, just my personal opinion. And I believe that the color scheme that she's come up with really does enhance the neighborhood, so I would be in favor of that when we do hear this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, I would just echo the same things of Commissioner Toussaint, but I'm not sure if, through you, Mr. Chair, if Ms. Swank, if that was her only copy, or if she could turn that in for the record. I've never seen a color chart like that with the different decades, but if that's not your only copy, I'd like to see one. But no other comments. I agree. I think there's just a few things that could be worked on here, and if this is going to council, which it's a GPA, so it's definitely going to council, and this is going to be one of those items that will need to be figured out or reworked before Circa opens, and we all know that's underneath the tight timeline, so to keep from holding them up, I'd like to see it go forward, but it is the commissioner's motion, and I think maybe we should ask Mr. Kessler if they're willing to hold it or not.
Commissioner Williams, would you like to ask?
Mr. Kessler, are you willing to hold it?
I would ask not
August
to,
13th?
sir, and I'll give you some justification for that right now. Again, this is an integral component to Circa's opening. Because we're on a very tight schedule, I am unwilling at this time on the applicant's behalf to agree to that. I would ask, again, based on the work that we did today, my continuing commitment to work with them as we work in the next 6 weeks between now and city council. Just so you're aware, this is not typically, there's usually 4 weeks. We're on a kind of a different track based on the GPA. So I think it gives us a lot of time. And again, if it wasn't integral and vital to something that is a tremendous project, I would say a different answer. But with that, that's my request.
What makes it integral and vital?
How it's the warehouse and how goods are delivered to the system is integral. Should this project be denied at city council, et cetera, those kinds of things and how it affects what the others, it just has a traumatic ripple effect through everything.
But this isn't to deny it. This is just to get a full understanding of the changes that you're proposing today. So you're saying you're not willing to hold this item until August 13th to give us a chance to examine it further?
What I was saying was I would ask that you give us the time to work it out between now and council rather than hold it in abeyance.
Sure, absolutely.
Do we have extra time to speak also?
No, public comment's closed. It's closed. Public comment's closed. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Vice Chair, I think that considering the timelines, I'm going to ask that in good faith, you make the changes and be prepared for a meeting with City Council. And so I'm actually going to change my motion for approval based on the changes we saw today.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Please cast your vote. And the motion for item 53 carries.
Thank you, and you have my continued commitment to honor that, sir.
You gotta do
And I will. And I'll start that
Also
right now.
54 and 55, motion to approve.
One at a time.
Yeah.
Three items.
The motion is to approve item 54. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries.
And motion to approve item 55.
You heard the motion for approval of item 55. Please cast your vote. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will move forward to council on August 21st, 2019. I would just mention, to make it clear for the applicant, that time is of the essence to get revised plans in, because everything that was suggested by the representative from the Nevada Foundation will require revisions to your plans if those are acceptable to you. So we need you to work with staff as quickly as possible to get those revisions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to items number 60 through 61.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, we've received a request. The applicant is present for items 40 through 42, I believe it was. And I believe the commissioner is willing to motion to have those reheard to allow the applicant to put his comments on the record.
Commissioner Rogan?
That would be my motion, Mr. Chairman.
There is a motion on the floor to rehear 40 through 42.
It's Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, that would be a motion to reconsider those
Excuse me,
items. Yep.
reconsider, yeah. a motion to reconsider. Yeah, it's... Okay, please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries. And I will read them back into the record.
Read them back or just reopen the hearing?
Read them back.
No, he said just reopen the hearing.
Oh, we can reopen the hearing. Okay. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Owners, I'm sorry, my name is Nathan Strager. I'm one of the owners at 4545 West Sahara Avenue. We are a dance studio and event center. I apologize for being late. I've been working on this for 2 years, so this is extremely important for me. My car battery actually died, and I was literally knocking on neighbors' doors trying to get a jump. So I apologize for being late. This is not taken lightly, and I appreciate you hearing me, allowing me to come up here. And I apologize to everybody for holding up the rest. So we opened this facility up. It used to be the old Phillips Supper Club. I'm used to seeing a bunch of different faces up here, so I'm sorry you guys don't know our story. But it's just me and my partner. We literally sold everything we had to build this facility. Hopefully you guys have seen it. It's a beautiful building. It's a dance studio and event center. We do a lot of kids during the day, but we also teach a lot of Latin dance. And so we built an event center with a stage. We have 9 dance teams from kids to adults, and we needed a place for them to perform and things like that in the interim in order to make money, because it is such a huge burden on our shoulders. We have a $2.5 million loan, including the land on this building, so we've definitely improved the area. And so in order to make money to pay the bills, we do weddings, birthdays, things like that. I've been operating as a nightclub for over a year. I haven't had one complaint. I've had Metro ordinance at my facility anywhere from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning. I've had city ordinance. I've never had one complaint. I've been working hand in hand with Lois Tarkanian's office, who is no longer here. So this is all new for everybody. But the tavern restricted, as you can see, is only for a certain area of this city, a very, very small area from Arville to Durango, only up Sahara. And that is for a reason, for only a few people, which was us and Vamped and maybe one other. So we've been really working for over 2 years to make this happen. We've never had a problem with the neighborhood. We keep a super clean facility. Every time there's graffiti on our building or on the front, we clean it the same day. We're a positive to the community. So that, you know, for us to pass this is extremely crucial for us to keep our doors open so that we can continue to operate. We've turned down so many public events so that we can stay in compliance. We could have easily taken them and just hoped that nobody would have found out, but we've been hand in hand with the city for 2 years and followed everything that they've said, and we've been on a very straight and narrow. So we hope that you would consider to approve this. It is crucial for our business to keep its doors open. We're not a big company. We operate clean. You've never had any problems with us, and we hope that you would consider approval.
Thank you very much. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public would like to be heard? Seeing no one from the public, I will note that there were some people that did speak in opposition of the application when we opened it up previously. And there was one gentleman, and he was with a group of 4 people.
Do you know what the business was? I'm sorry.
It was a resident that was behind there. So I will turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the record, it was actually a resident and a person who attended the church that's immediately to the west of your property.
You're talking about the church that's right next to the liquor store?
Regardless, it's the one that's right next to the property.
We've never had an issue with any of our neighbors.
Okay, we're gonna have the commissioner speak to this now.
Sorry.
No problem, and thank you for coming. I'm sorry that you had such car trouble. My only concern with this, and and I'm sorry about that, is that the number of parking spaces is so deficient, and the objections that we had received were with regard to the parking situation, given the events that you already have under the license that you have and the use that you have is already deficient. And now with this request for special use permits, you're, I think, 73% deficient in the number of parking spaces. And I don't believe that there's any manner in which you can, alleviate that concern.
We actually have an easement to the east
Okay.
to park anytime after 5 o'clock, and I have a copy of that easement that I can provide you, and that easement is good for 90 years.
And I guess the question for staff would be, is that the case that this easement can be used for parking, and was that included in the analysis that you completed?
Through you, Chair, I do not believe that was used in the analysis we had. We do have provisions for off-site parking agreements and that sort of thing that we could look at, but as far as for this application, that was not considered or brought to our attention.
We've never ran up against an issue with parking. We've never had an issue with parking with our neighbors. We work hand in hand with the liquor store next door. We always ask them, hey, we might need a couple, if there is a couple spots, they've never had an issue. So I'm really perplexed that there's a issue with parking. We've been operating for over a year and never had an issue. So I don't know what to say. I apologize.
Mr. Chair, this issue was final action unless appealed by the applicant, correct?
Correct.
Sir, again, I'm very concerned about the parking situation. We had some people here that were opposed to the situation. I understand that you had car trouble. I'm going to make a motion again to deny the same numbers. You can always appeal it to City Council, and you can meet with the councilman between now and City Council on the 21st to discuss it. I'd be happy to talk to you as well, subsequent to tonight's meeting.
But is this based on the parking, or is this based on a church that operates one day a week and not during the same time as us?
It's the parking.
But we've never had an issue with parking.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's the parking that I'm concerned with.
I guess
Mr. Chairman?
So, yes, Commissioner Song?
If I may just interject, just one comment here. Sure. It's not just the parking as it applies to your business. It's, once this goes into effect, it's in effect for that property. It runs with the land. So if you close your doors and somebody opens up something different next week or next month, then they still have the right to do that. So we have to take that into consideration as a board as well.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. So you're saying that it runs concurrent with the land, so if we close our doors, that they're going to run against the same issue? Is that what you're saying?
No, the variance would be approved, and therefore, whoever went in the future would also be able to follow, or the variance would apply to everybody in the future on that parcel of land, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, but I don't, not having an issue in the past and knowing that the surrounding businesses are closed.
I have no other comments.
Okay, we're gonna close and go to Commissioner Rogan.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to deny item 40, variance 76469.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
So can I ask a question?
Not yet. We're going
Okay.
through the voting procedure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to deny item 41, special use permit 76470.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. That motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to deny item 42, special use permit 76471.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, as indicated, that item is final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days. So please, if you have any questions about how to do that, reach out to the planning department and we'll walk you through how to make that appeal. And then, as the commissioner mentioned, you may want to reach out, if you make that appeal, reach out to the Ward 1 office and have a conversation before that is set for hearing.
Sure. So can I ask a question? So I've been operating the same way. So what are my options if I can't keep my doors open? That's basically what you're telling me. I mean, if I have to close, now you have an empty building, right?
Sir, that's a self-imposed hardship. I mean, perhaps this location isn't the best use for what you intend to do.
But we've been doing it for a year and a half, and now you're telling me.
It is a self-imposed hardship. You came in for the application. Unfortunately, if it doesn't work, then the next person has to deal with an issue of whatever their business is. Staff can direct you on how to go through the appeal process.
Sure.
Maybe there is something that does work. You know, for example, we didn't know you had the easement thing, so it wasn't even a consideration. So maybe there's something that does work. So they can explain how to go through the process, and if you get to city council, like the commissioner said, there might be something that works.
I just think it's tough because I was working with a different set of people for 2 years, and I kind of get dealt a new hand, and I think
Well, we have to deal with what's in front of us. I've been here, and we've seen the abeyance, and I've seen it in the last briefing, I've seen it in this one, and there's been a motion that's made, so we have to keep the meeting going.
Sure, I'll step away, but before I do, I just think it's not correct that we spend $2.5 million to improve the community, and it doesn't matter if our door is closed, but it's okay, we'll take the next step. I appreciate you allowing me to step up here and be heard again in front of a new set of people, and I apologize for the car breakdown, so thank you for at least allowing me to step up here.
Thank you very much. Moving on to related items 60 through 61. 60 VAR 76602, applicant Jonathan Abira, owner Agcom 1 LLC, for possible action request for a variance to allow a 9-foot tall perimeter fence where 8 feet is the maximum allowed, with barbed wire where such is prohibited at 1935 Fremont Street, C2 zone. Staff recommends denial. Related item 61, SUP 76603, for possible action request for a special use permit for proposed open-air vending transient sales lot use. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a special use permit for an open-air vending transient sales lot use, operating from a 128-square-foot food truck in a parking space adjacent to an existing building that contains a delivery and service vehicle storage use at 1935 Fremont Street. A special use permit is required because the applicant does not meet conditional use regulation 7F, which states, on any lot that is adjacent to residentially zoned property, the hours of operation shall be limited to a period between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. The applicant currently has proposed to operate 24 hours per day. Staff has determined that due to the limited distance from the residential development and proposed hours of operation, the use cannot be conducted in a manner that is harmonious and compatible with the surrounding land uses. In addition, an existing 8-foot tall concrete perimeter wall is located around the north, east, and west property lines behind the delivery service vehicle storage building. The applicant has requested a variance to allow a 9-foot tall perimeter wall with the top 1 foot consisting of barbed wire. As the proposed perimeter wall does not comply with perimeter wall height and building material standards set forth in Title 19, staff has recommended denial of the variance request as well. Please note that additional letters of support and protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here for items number 60 through 61? I'll need your name and address for the record, and if you could tell us about the application, please.
My name is Jonathan Ibarra, 1935 Fremont Street. This is my dad.
Salvador Ibarra, 5380 Police Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Thank you.
So we are proposing to keep the barbed wire around the property. In this property, we have a commissary with a parking lot in the back where it's specifically for food trucks and food trailers where they are stored and secured when these food truck owners are not operating. We did take the barbed wire off the front view from Fremont Street so that cannot be seen or visible, but it will be around. We do request to have it on the sides as well as the back for extra security.
Okay. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard on this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and go to Commissioner Schlotman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Just want to make a disclosure. I live in the neighborhood, live across the street in the Fremont Street lofts, and it won't affect me any greater or lesser than anybody else. So I'll be voting on this matter tonight. I think you already operate in there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you moved in a couple months ago?
About 2 years ago, we've been in construction for about 2 years. We've invested over $500,000. I believe it's good for the area there. We do have a commissary, I think I did mention that, and in this commissary, we provide for over 20 food trucks and food trailers where they prepare the food before they go out to the city.
Okay. And you actually have one food truck on site, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You know, I hadn't experienced any issues with this across the street. I know a lot of people are always in that lot getting tacos or whatever you're selling over there. I can step out on my balcony and see all the cars going in and out, but I don't think it's necessarily disturbing anybody. It's not disturbing me. And I don't smell anything coming from across the street. If I smell anything, it's from Odyssey Pizza right next door. So I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with the barbed wire and the 9-foot variance for 9 feet. I don't feel that there's any justification to have a 9-foot tall fence or have barbed wire downtown. I mean, it's pretty much stating that the area is not safe. I mean, I know people get into stuff, people hop fences, but if we're going to start cleaning up the area, let's all do our part in taking down the barbed wire and trying to meet code on that. Would y'all be open to that?
That's the reason why we did remove it from the front view from Fremont Street. We do agree. We are trying to uplift the area. But as I'm sure you've seen, we have a lot of homeless around the area. And we have over 25 food trucks where these units can easily go from $80,000 to $100,000. And we are responsible for their security. And I believe with the barbed wire, it would just add on to that extra security.
Okay, well,
One last thing, I'm sorry, this barbed wire was already there. We never put it. We just would like to maintain it.
I understand. And as we're approving new entitlements up and down Fremont and trying to improve the area, we're trying to take down barbed wire and concertina wire and things like that and trying to make it look a lot better. And so in the spirit of trying to improve the area, I'm not in support of the barbed wire. I don't like it. I want it removed from our entire neighborhood. I don't have it at our community. I built it across the street. There's 70 houses there. People jump the fence. They cross through our community and go out Fremont Street. I understand why, because it's a lot easier to jump through our property than walking 5 blocks going around and Bruce up to Fremont. But yeah, at this point, I have no problem with what you do in the commissary and the food truck, just not the barbed wire. And so I'll make a motion. We'll see where it goes and wish you luck.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, on item number 60, VAR 76602, I move.
Commissioner Schlotman?
Yes.
Excuse me 1 second.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, is it possible to have the barbed wire but put it on the inside of the wall so it's not visually intrusive to the community, but yet the sense of security is still there, to where if anybody did jump over that wall, well, then they get what they get, but this way it's there, but it's not eye-level intrusive?
Yes, Commissioner, and that is a point. I mean, they can appreciate bringing that up because you do have the ability to put the barbed wire on the inside of the fence and have it, you know, where it doesn't extend up higher than the CMU wall or concrete fence, as everybody was saying. I don't want to give legal advice, but if somebody jumps over your fence and they don't see that barbed wire, they're going to slice themselves up pretty good. So that's a personal call that you'll need to make and that I can't make. However, it won't change my motion because if I make a motion for denial, then they'll either have to take it down, or if they put it on the interior, you can do that if that's what you want, where we can't see it from the outside, but then you wouldn't need a variance for that anyways, so it wouldn't change my motion one way or another.
Okay.
But it is an option. I'm glad you brought that up.
We'll definitely take into consideration.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the floor to follow staff's recommendation.
Motion on the floor, follow staff's recommendation for denial.
Thank you, Commissioner Schlotman. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, on item number 61, SUP 76603, I move to approve, subject to staff's conditions, subject to the testimony tonight.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your vote. Yes vote is for approval. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will both go forward and be heard as a part of the City Council's agenda on August 21st, 2019 at 11 a.m.'s hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to related items 62 through 64. 62 VAR 76612, applicant owner Cox Communication, Las Vegas, Inc. For possible action request for a variance to allow a 15-foot tall wall fence where a maximum of 8 feet is allowed at 3850 North Tenaya Way, Ward 4. Staff recommends denial. Related item 63 VAR 76754. For a possible action request for a variance to allow 90 parking spaces where 91 spaces are required. Staff recommends denial. Related item number 64, SDR 76613, for possible action request for a major modification to an approved site development plan review with a waiver to allow a 0-foot landscape buffer on the south perimeter where 30 feet is the minimum required. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has proposed to install a 14-foot, 8-inch perimeter screen wall on the southern perimeter of an existing structure, which will extend into the southern property line, which will create an enclosed rear yard area for the building. As proposed, the wall height exceeds the allowable height outlined in Title 19 development standards, which allows a maximum height of 8 feet for a perimeter screen wall. In addition, this wall will encroach into the required landscape buffer area, reducing its width from 30 feet to 0 feet. Staff finds that the removal of the required perimeter landscape buffer and planting materials will create a visual intrusion and will create a negative impact to surrounding properties. Also, the applicant has proposed to locate a trash enclosure within the interior of the site, which will require the removal of on-site parking spaces. As such, the required variance and waivers further reinforce the unsuitability of this site for the proposed development. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the project and all associated land use entitlement applications. Please note that additional letters of support or letters of protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Chairperson. Brian Wolf, 6585 Escondido Drive, Suite D. Representing the application. I'd like to address some of the concerns that staff might have had with the proposed project. The first one was to deny the 15-foot perimeter fence where 8 foot is allowed. The reason for the 15-foot fence is for security. This is a Cox Communication building. It is a data hub for the valley, and we believe that security of a data hub is kind of crucial. And 8-foot walls can be hopped pretty easily. Secondly, a 15-foot perimeter wall will help screen some of the mechanical equipment that will be on the property. So I have a picture here, if we can zoom in at this. I have a picture that shows the east wall, and you can see where my finger is. There is some mechanical equipment that's going on right here with an 8-foot wall screening it. However, the equipment is still seen. So if we were to raise the wall, such as we did, our previous tenants did, this is a 15-foot wall right here, which screens the same units I just pointed out. So what we'd like to do is just continue this existing wall around the south of the property and also on the east of the property to screen some new units that are being proposed. Secondly, the applicant has requested a waiver for the site development plan review to allow 0-foot landscape buffer on the south perimeter, which would be along Merlot Lane. The reason for that is, as you can see in the site plans that we have developed, new equipment pads will be created. The mechanical units that will be on the ground will need to be secured. They're very large equipment, as you can see. So if we had the 30-foot setback, we wouldn't be able to get the mechanical equipment on the ground as necessary. Third item was to allow 90 parking spaces where 91 are required. On the site plan, we're showing a trash enclosure on site. The current trash enclosures are pretty far away from the actual property, so that the applicant would like to put the trash enclosure on property so they won't have to travel so far to the trash enclosures. That would eliminate one spot, and we're hoping you approve that, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in this item? Get your name and address to the record, please, sir.
Hi, I'm Bill Fishbeck. I am with Cox Communications. My address is 8512 Midnight Avenue. So this is one of my sites, and the reason for some of the stuff that we're proposing here is right now I've got 4 40-ton units, air conditioners on my roof that are custom units. They're at end of life, and to get custom units back, we just can't do it. I need to move those air conditioners down on the ground, and that's what those 4 units on the ground will be, is 4 40-ton air conditioners. Up here is where my generators are at and my switch gear. So right now, anybody could jump over that wall and get to my switch gear. That's why we're proposing that the wall be so tall.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Toussaint?
Yeah, I understand why you need the wall to be raised to 15 feet, because this is sensitive equipment there, and I do understand that. Normally, I don't like giving variances for large walls because they're not all that attractive. But in this case, I do understand it. And if there aren't any other comments, I would make a motion to approve VAR 7654.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your vote.
On item 6...
One second, Commissioner Toussaint. We're having a little...
She loves her job.
Is it not coming up?
No, but
Okay, so you gave an oral vote. Okay, please post, and that motion carries.
On item 64, SDR 766... Huh? Oh, 63, I'm sorry, 63. There isn't any, this is a variance for parking. I don't have a problem with that, so I would make a motion to approve VAR 75754.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
On item 64, is there any way you can put some plants around that facility?
Well, it is,
I like plants.
and I do too. I would think maybe,
So on this property, along the front,
Yeah.
along Tenaya, none of those bushes will be disturbed. All that vegetation will stay on the front there. It's just the back side of the building, which is a parking lot between us and the storage unit, and the south wall, which is on Malo Road, which across the street is residential, but they have a 10-foot wall there and right up against their sidewalk. So there's no vegetation on that side anyway. So that's the only place where we're going to lose the vegetation is on Merlot.
But you're going to keep the plants over on Tenaya?
Yes, everything in Tenaya will stay the same. Nothing will change out front. The wall is only going down the back side, which is a parking lot with the storage unit, and then down Merlot, and then it angles to my building. So the whole front of it will still have all the landscaping there.
Okay.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Toussaint, before, if
Yeah.
I could ask one question, if
Sure.
you don't mind. The units are AC units that are going on the
Air
ground?
conditioners, yes.
Okay, and you know, you saw me vote yes for the parking, the landscape, zero landscape. I mean, For me, in this situation, have to use a crane, and I have to put it on the roof, and my life would go on. So I just won't be supporting the zero landscape application, but just putting it out there.
If I could say one more thing, our building holds the 911 switchgear. We need to protect what's in that building, and I need to protect my generators, my switchgear, and the amount of air that we use in the building. This little building uses more air than this whole building does.
I don't doubt any of that. I understand it.
We need to protect that.
I just, for me, I would be in a situation where I'd probably have to use a crane and put the 40-ton units back on the roof, and life goes on. That's just me. So, Commissioner
Well, as long
Tucson?
as you're going to keep the plants on Tenaya, I'm going to make a motion for SDR 76613 for approval.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval. Oh, hang on. I hit the wrong button. Okay, that motion will still carry, noting mine as a no. Thank you. That motion did carry. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, all items are final action this evening unless appealed to the city clerk's office within 10 days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great evening.
Moving on to item number 65, VAR 76601, applicant owner Danuta Suster and Laura St. James for possible action on request for a variance to allow a 16-foot tall perimeter wall where 12 feet is required, to allow a 13-foot tall front yard wall fence where a maximum of 5 feet with a 2-foot solid base is allowed, and to allow a corrugated metal fence where such building materials are not allowed at 325 Falcon Lane, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the subject property is zoned R1 Single Family Residential and contains a single-family detached building with a pool on the southwest corner. The 5-foot-tall corrugated metal fence was constructed on top of an existing concrete block retaining wall of varying height along the west and south property lines. The wall currently does not comply with Title 1906 perimeter wall development standards, nor have any building permits been obtained. The applicant's justification letter states that the existing fence on the south and west property lines is to provide privacy from direct views from the public street to the pool area. As the development does not comply with Title 1906 perimeter wall development standards, staff recommends denial of the request. Please note that additional site inspection pictures have been added to your supplemental information packet after posting of the agenda. Please note that additional letters of support and protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address to the record, please?
Yes. Hi, I'm Laura St. James, and we just purchased 325 Falcon Lane in Las Vegas.
My name's Danuta Schuster. I'm the joint owner of 325 Falcon Lane.
My wife.
Thank you. Would you like to tell us about the application?
I'm sorry, what?
Would you like to tell us about the application?
Oh, yes. I have, well, first of all, I hope you've all read my justification letter. Have you all read it? Yes? Great, okay. I would like to read something, and congratulations, I understand you're new, less than a week, and I found that out because I reached out to the council member, Brian Knudsen, and so I emailed him yesterday, and since he's representing us, and I asked him if, if he would just hear me out. And so I didn't get any response, and I don't know if he received it or not. So I want to read some excerpts from the letter that I wrote to him, because this is very important to us. So if you'll indulge me, I appreciate it. My wife and I, Nusha, we've been together 24 years. We just bought the property in Ward 1 at 325 Falcon Lane. After looking at many potential properties from coast to coast, we decided to permanently leave Los Angeles and settle here in Las Vegas, because after much research, we felt the people here were very warm to others, and the city government was progressive. We had planned to spend the rest of our days here on Falcon Lane for the above reasons. I'm 71, she's 58. So we're not going anywhere after this, except, Anyway, we bought the home and the property, and we knew that it had been abused, It had been neglected and was in disrepair and had a lot of deferred maintenance. We realized it would need quite a bit of upgrading and improvement, but we were ready and willing to bring it back to life in a beautiful way. 16 years ago, we purchased our home in Los Angeles, and the picture popped up there, that white dilapidated house. Okay, that was a crack house when we purchased it, and it was abandoned. And we brought it up to the most beautiful home in the neighborhood. Okay, anyway, so we're really proud of that. We got the keys to 325 Falcon on March 20th. That's just 3.5 months ago. This was the crack house you're looking at. And the next picture is the home now. This is our current home in Los Angeles that we're going to sell. We got the keys to 325 Falcon on March 20th, 2019, just 3.5 months ago. We were extremely excited and couldn't wait to get started on making upgrades to our new home, and decided to start with the most urgent project, repairing and replacing the dilapidated and unsafe fence. The one that was there was structurally and physically unsafe for us, the small school children who go to school a half a block from our house, and passers-by. It provided no privacy for us to swim in the pool located in our front yard. Yes, we are only one of 2 properties in this entire city with a pool in the front yard, as per the planning department information. In the first days, we were made aware by several close neighbors that in the past, when vacant, the children have climbed over the fence to swim in that pool and run around on the property. There, as I said, there's an elementary school a half a block away. Utility personnel personally told us that they never even bothered to use a key. They jumped the fence to go read the meters on our property. Okay. We also learned from the neighbors that a very short while before we bought the Falcon, before we bought our home on Falcon, the SWAT team raided this property and lobbed tear gas through the windows to flush out a drug dealer who was hiding among squatters living here illegally. We were also showed the video by our neighbors of the SWAT team raid. Also, a couple of days after we bought it, we went back to LA. We're not even moved in yet, just so you know, 3.5 months later. A couple of days after we purchased it, we went home, and then we saw an intruder get over the fence and attempt to break into our newly purchased home via our security cameras that we had just set up the day before we left. Then, after being here a few days, we discovered that the traffic flow passing in front of our home was extremely heavy and extremely noisy, with lots of gas fumes being carried into our home on the wind. We were on the corner of Mayflower and Falcon Lane. My security camera, in one random 24-hour period, captured over 183 vehicles passing in front of our house. 183 vehicles in one 24-hour period on a little place called Falcon Lane. Okay, my security, the vehicles, they ranged from school buses to garbage trucks, car transporters loaded with their cars, beer delivery trucks, semi-trailers, pickups, vans, cars, and very loud motorcycles. Many motorcyclists live right around us, which is fine. We like motorcyclists, just not the noise. So having all of this discouraging and disturbing information, you know, we're dealing with it. We planned the fence replacement with all the above factors in mind. We needed it to be tall enough for the children's safety in the front, privacy for us in the front when we are swimming, as some of my neighbors actually made some comments about, hey, I can't wait to see you in that pool, okay? We also did it for noise abatement, because the noise was deafening in the house when these big trucks and the motorcycles go past. The gas fumes now, they go above our windows and doorways, so that was a good thing. We wanted to keep it secure enough to keep future intruders out who might want to do a 71-year-old and a 57-year-old woman physical harm. Also, the home is mid-century modern, so design elements were really important to us. That's when we decided to replace the fence with a much stronger material than was there before, because parts of the old fence did not hold up to the Las Vegas heat and elements. We chose corrugated metal as a replacement fence because its mid-century modern look. We know there are lots of young children living around us and going to school down the block. So we decided to incorporate some very large, very whimsical musical metal sculptures all along the entire fence, which you can see in the picture. And they've come by and they've thanked us and they love it and they're laughing. We also wanted to be environmentally friendly, so we've decided to make parts of it a living fence. And I think you might have a picture of one of the living fences I have in Los Angeles in my home. This living fence will have many affixed containers filled with plants and flowers to make it very neighborhoody looking and really sweet and attractive. As we were finishing the front section of our new fence, a code compliance officer stopped in front and told us we would need to get a permit from the city to make the changes permanent. I told her we were not made aware of that when we purchased the property, but we would comply with the city rules. So the next morning, I went to Rancho Drive and spoke to the permit officer, who informed us we would need to get a variance for our new fence. Now, all this is new to me, so I have no idea what a variance is. I didn't know that we needed a permit. You know, we're just two little homeowners who want to settle and die peacefully. We have applied and paid the $830 fee, and then we're here tonight, okay? We were encouraged by the person, his name is Craig, to include a letter of justification, which you guys have, okay? He also told us to get as many letters of approval from our new neighbors. Now, these are people who don't even know us, and I've got 8 letters already from people who have come by themselves to our fence to tell us how much they love it, and some of them are here tonight to tell you. Let's see. We've also got pictures of our proposed finished fence, which you have here. So we hope you see the potential in what we've done in our new neighborhood, okay? We've already been thanked numerous times, and some people have said thank you for improving my property value and saving this home from more crime and safety hazards. So we're asking you, please, consider us homeowners. We would really appreciate an approval for this, because we're not hurting anyone. We're not interfering in anyone's privacy. All we want is our privacy and safety for the children and us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Come on up. We have 3 microphones. If I could just ask you to step aside. I'll need your name and address for the record, and if you're for or against, and why.
I can just come up here, right?
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Camille Collins. I live at 400 Falcon Lane. Basically, I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada from Carson City in the mid-'70s with my mom, and I had friends that lived in Falcon Lane in that neighborhood, and back then it was a very quiet, low, if not no traffic area, super residential. Vegas was much smaller when those houses were built. Now you can basically say, I went up to Nevada, Reno in 1980, came back in 2005 for my mom, bought the house on 400 Falcon Lane. The neighborhood had dramatically changed. Basically, Falcon Lane is like an alternate route for Decatur. I mean, you get the Arizona Charlie's buses. I mean, you get everybody going by there. It's, like I said, dramatically changed since then. After the Great Recession, we have a ton of homeless people and squatters in the neighborhood. She's totally correct. A few months ago, the last tenants or whatever, we had SWAT there. The road was blocked for a couple hours, couldn't even get home from work. The property's been really abused and neglected. We're really thrilled about the fence. It gives them privacy. I mean, if you went by there, there's squatters there all the time, homeless. I mean, trucks, noise, it's really, like I said, it's an alternate route for Decatur. It's really gotten trafficky, so we really appreciate them as neighbors and bringing our property value up, and just hope they can keep their fence. I think it's a unique property. It does go around to the drainage ditch in the corner too, so it does get vandalized a lot, and without that fence, they would have no privacy and no peace.
Thank you, Camille Collins. Thanks for coming out. That was very nice of you.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else like to be heard? We do have 3 microphones, so if there's anybody else, come on up. I see one more person. No, 2 more people.
Okay, good evening. Chairman, commissioners, the staff, I appreciate y'all for listening to this. My name is Jamal Crosby. I I've been a Las Vegas resident for over half my life. During this span of time, I've seen the city grow immensely. I was there for the construction of this project. I've known Laura for a long time. She's become an extended family member and a second mom figure, and I knew she as well. And in saying that, I know her intentions for this project were pure in nature, in a sense of being hands-on and taking pride in ownership. So it's only natural she would customize and put finishing touches, upgrades on her property to accommodate her family and lifestyle. While lending a hand for the install, we were getting lots of attention from the from the neighbors, onlookers that were driving by looking with curiosity, and some even stopping us.
Slow down.
He's okay.
Stopping us, complimenting the hard work and approach of the design. One lady even went as far as trying to hire our services for an idea she was inspired by. But this wasn't the goal of the wall. Its purpose was for safety and privacy with a modern touch of added decoration pieces to make people who saw it appreciate it and feel as if they were not looking at a fortress. It's stable, sturdy, and effective. The home was purchased with a nice swimming pool in front, as you already know, that is not far from a school, which means kids are in commute or live in the surrounding area. Nothing against them at all, but it would be safer if they didn't have access to an open body of water that can be hopped by anyone. The previous wall was built so low. This eliminates anyone being tempted to take that choice, including random adults, teenagers, everyone. We live in an era where it's just better to take the initiative for a solution than be responsible for our liability, which we all should hope never happens to anyone at any time. And with all the renovations going on in the city, why shouldn't someone have the right to make changes to the property that's not affecting the neighborhood in a poor manner, and no one is breaking the law on that said property? And I appreciate you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Hi, my name's Stephen Weiss, 1809 Grand Rodeo. I was actually their realtor representing you with the purchases of this home. Initially, when I got there, I was a little surprised. I've never seen a pool in the front yard. So we're trying to define front yard, backyard with heights. I don't see a front yard. The pool's literally in front. It's not my job to, if a client likes a home, they're friends of mine also for 10 years. But if a client likes a home, it's not my place to say, well, this is a little too strange for me, I wouldn't live here. They like the home. There was graffiti, the front yard, there were doors not being put up from the prior owners because they said until it records, we're not gonna put these new doors in there for storage area. We're not putting that in this home because we don't want it broken into like they've been before or damaged. So we went ahead, they purchased the home, we closed, we recorded.
And they didn't replace the fence that was non...
They gave you the new doors.
Laura, let me just get through the public comment, and I'll
The
get back
initial,
to
the
you.
initial wrought iron that was on top of this, and you see the slope of this cinder block. The wrought iron was very unstable. I mean, you could just shake it all around. I came by the place, I don't know, a couple months later, they invited me over, and I'm driving up, and I was blown away. I'm 55 years old, I'm not an Instagrammer. I wanted to take a picture of this, what I saw from what it was before, and just post this. Because the decoration, just the whole look of it, the aesthetic in the neighborhood just blew me away. So I'm here in support of that, just from seeing thousands of homes over my career. It's a very unique property.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public like to be heard? Okay, I think this will be our last person, unless
Yes.
there's anybody else from the public that
No,
wants to be
just
heard.
him. Thank you for enduring
Thanks,
us.
Laura. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Hi, I'm Ronald Walls, and I've been a friend of these girls for about 15, 20 years. They used to live over in my neighborhood, and I know the quality of work that they do is great. They fixed the place up that they had before, was a mess, and they cleaned it all up and fixed it up, and it turned out great, and it's still good today. And I've seen that fence before, and I've seen it after, and as you can see, there's a lot of improvement. I wish we had a few fences like that in our neighborhood. I'd like for them to come back to the neighborhood and bring the fence with them.
All right,
They can keep the pool in the front yard.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Ron.
coming out for your comments. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, no one else in the public hearing. I will close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Rogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to Las Vegas.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you're doing with this property. It's certainly important to turn a blighted property into a useful home that you seem to be on track with doing. I'm not so much concerned with the variance for the height requirement because of the condition of the land that is a significant slope from, what is it, north to south towards Mayflower
Right,
Lane.
right.
I would like to meet with you, though, if you're all right with that. I want to discuss with you some of the issues that some of the neighbors have brought up. There were 7 protests that were received since in the past week. So if you're all right with that, I'd like to just move
I'd
this
love it, yeah.
item to next month, and we can sit down and talk about it.
Okay, because we aren't here full-time yet. She's still working in LA, so
Okay.
we have to make special trips back to the house and to here to have these meetings.
Well, if you would just hang out afterwards, I'll come and talk to you.
I would love that.
Okay.
Thank you.
My motion would be to obey this matter to the August 13th Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogan. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries. Okay. Yeah, did you have the letters of support? That you
Yeah,
said
I
you-
do.
Do you mind handing that to staff so we could just have
Sure.
that for the record, please? Thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks. All right, we're going to move on to related items 66 through 67. Item number 66, VAC 76744, applicant BDR Cascadia LLC, owner BDR Cascadia LLC et al. For possible action request for a petition to vacate a portion of a 20-foot wide public alley west of Maryland Parkway between Lewis and Bridger Avenue, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. And item number 67, SDR 76593, for possible action request for a major amendment to a previously approved site development plan review for proposed building height decrease from 15 to 13 stories, an increase in multifamily residential units from 193 to 219, a decrease of commercial space from 28,817 square feet to 15,996 square feet, and addition of 27,195 square feet of office space and 3,488 square feet of restaurant space with waivers of Appendix F interim downtown Las Vegas Area 2 development standards for proposed mixed-use development. Staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, this is a request to allow proposed modifications to a previously approved mixed-use development located on the northwest corner of Lewis Avenue and Maryland Parkway. While the Founders District does encourage land uses such as mixed-use development for the subject site, the project as proposed is overbuilt. This is evidenced by the requested waivers and previously approved variances for the project. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the site development plan review modification request. With regards to the requested petition of vacation, staff recommends approval of this as it is a proposed re-entitlement of a previously approved vacation, VAC 70268, which expired on July 19th of 2018. Please note that additional letters of support have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before I ask for your name, I will say that I did abstain previously when this came forward. It's because I had I worked with the architect. That was closed, and in the past, and I see that there's a new architect with the group, so I will be voting on this application tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. My name is Tony Sless, address 1980 Festival Plaza Drive. Along with me is Ed Vance with Ed Vance Architects. We together represent the applicant BDR Cascadia. In the audience with me are the principals of it, Daniel Reisberg, who has been involved and really the visionary of this project since the inception several years ago. Along with him now are his equity partners, John Rogers and Bob Corrigan from Chicago, who are now now JVing or entered into a joint venture agreement to now develop this property and see it to its fruition. So first, let me give a little bit of background. I think it's important to let you know what happened 2 years ago and why we are here now 2 years later and what we're trying to accomplish. First, the property is located on Maryland Parkway in Lewis, about just over an acre. Some of you were on the commission 2 years ago. Others of you may not have, or were not on, but may have seen this project, and this may be your first time viewing this project through your planning commissioner lenses now. So I think it's important first to give a baseline where we're starting from. Like I said, 2 years ago, this project was entitled for a 15-story mixed-use development. It was approved at a little over 180 feet, 193 units, just under 30,000 square feet of commercial, retail, office, a restaurant lounge on the top deck with additional exhibit space and open space, pool, lounges, things of that nature. That was approved 2 years ago by Planning Commission. It was then went up to City Council where we obtained our final approval for this project. What has happened in the last 2 years are actually some significant positive events. I know during the discussion 2 years ago there was some reservation on some planning commissioners about the size of the scope, the ability to actually do this at the time. So we are coming back because there's been, like I said, a few important changes. The first one is we have brought on some equity partners now, as I mentioned, John Rogers and Bob Corrigan, who do this all the time, professional developers based out of Chicago, built skyscrapers and developers of that nature. The first thing they did when looking at this entitlement package was, I think almost a quote was, "We need to put this building on a diet." And what they meant by that is that there was a lot of wasted space. So Ed came in, joined the team to help redevelop, basically slim down the project. So now what you have, instead of a 15-story tall building, is a 13-story, 159-foot tall building. Ed will go into more details about what that looks like, the floors and how this all works. In conjunction with that, we also lost 100,000 square feet. So that's kind of the narrowing of it, the building. So we reduced the massing of it a lot. So that's one of the changes. Number two, as I said, we did bring on equity partners that help us to get this to this point, to foresee this vision through the entitlements we have. And then as a kind of corresponding to that is a reduction in the parking. So we did receive a parking variance or a waiver the first time. We're asking to reduce that a little bit more, and that's where basically the third major change has come into play. What has happened in the last 2 years is that we have seen a nice movement with respect to an establishment of a rapid transit corridor. This corridor that the RTC is basically approved and now working in conjunction with the city is scheduled to run right here at the airport along Maryland Parkway. You pass UNLV, and then down to this area. The star represents our site, so we're right on the corridor, right where it's going to then go up basically along Carson and the Bonneville-Alta alignment to the medical district. So we think we are now very uniquely positioned to take advantage of that rapid transit corridor. I know some of the details are still being worked out, whether it's a rapid bus system, whether it's light rail. I know that is still being discussed, but nonetheless, this transportation area is coming in. The city, I believe, is going to be starting to look at adopting elements of that towards the end of the year, with hopefully some type of approval by next summer, as I understand it. So we think we are in a great spot for that. There are transit-oriented districts associated with this. We are certainly going to be near those districts to also take advantage of that. So that is really the driving factor for us on these parking reductions that you see. But very important to note, even though we are asking for the parking reduction, we're asking for 219 units. Every unit will still be able to have its own parking space, and we will still have a little over 30 units left over for the mixed-use component, which would would be the office and retail portions. I'll let Ed, take over here in a second on where those lie within the building. But this is really community-based, community-driven. This is an idea that this is going to be a work play so that the office folks have the ability to live where they work. Any of the retail component, whether it be CVS, is something meant for the community. This is not what I would say a destination type. You're not going to have people from Summerlin, Green Valley wanting to drive down here. This is going to be for the community here. So there is also obviously a lot of new modes of transportation that have really taken off in the last 5 years. Uber and Lyft have become much more available, much more usable. My wife and I use it all the time now when we go out. So that, things that have developed over the years. Another thing that I think by way of example to prove kind of the parking situation in this area is that there are 57 total units, rental units on these properties. Only 20 of them, actually, only 20 of the renters have vehicles. So nearly 2/3 of the existing population, tenant population, do not have vehicles. So that again ties into what we're trying to do. And providing, additional garages and things like that that may become obsolete, 50 years from now when this building is still going to be there is something that we've got to take a look at and try to plan for in the future. We did have a community neighborhood meeting. About 22 residents and constituents showed up. I think it's fair and accurate to describe that they like the project. This is not the first time they've seen it. We've been in touch with them over the last 2 years as this development has progressed through. And last night when we had the neighborhood meeting, we received positive comments, and we appreciate that. The one last thing before I turn it over to Mr. Vance is that we made a commitment 2 years ago. We made a commitment last night, and I want to reiterate it tonight, and I will do so as we move up to City Council. But the existing tenants that we have on there, Mr. Riceberg is taking care of them. Their rents have stayed the same. They're about 3 months or so prior to us commencing construction. Those residents will receive free rent. They will have an opportunity then to take a move-out location payment fee, and they also have the opportunity to come back at a discounted rent rate if they would so choose to move back into this neighborhood and into this property. That was another very important element to the community, very important element to this Planning Commission a couple of years ago, to City Council, and I wanted to make sure that that we're carrying that commitment forward. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Vance to walk through some of the details of the building.
Thank you. I'll need your name and address for the record, Mr. Vance.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody have any questions so far? That's good. I won't belabor this too long, but I will go through this built environment as it's been modified.
I need your name and address.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Ed Vance with EV&A Architects, 1160 at Town Center Drive, Suite 160. If you could zoom in on that plan a little better, and I'll move that mic out of the way so you can see. As Tony mentioned, we have modified the plan to accommodate a high-rise. We've incorporated the high-rise requirements of the emergency generator, fire command center, and secondary water source. Necessary, we have some parking here, which takes up about, unfortunately, 1/3 of the first floor. Now, we've preserved 2/3 of it, including the vertical transportation, for that rentable, community center-oriented space that we hope that the residents and the community will be able to enjoy. So that represents about 30,000 square feet total. 20,000 of it is available for rent. You're going to notice that the perimeter of the project has been pulled back. So the floor plates above are about 34,000 square feet, but we only have 30,000 on that first floor, which means that I have 4,000 square feet of covered amenity space out here. And I'm going to show you some images later that demonstrate how nice that's going to make the perimeter of the project along Lewis and Maryland Parkway, as well as 11th Street. All of the services are going to be allowed or brought through the alleyway, which will be turned. Access to the ramp, which takes you up into the garage, will be in that sort of crotch of the building. Trash will be accommodated in the same pull-out area, so we have a loading area for that. People can move in that way through this corridor, which takes you to the central core and vertical transportation. So it's been cleaned up, and it looks like it's going to work very, very nicely for the tenants as well as the operation of the facility. As we move to the second floor, mostly 3 floors of parking, laid out very efficiently. And above that third floor, we're going to have a 30,000 square foot office rentable area with a common courtyard that all of the office users can use, that will be shaded nearly 100% of the time. And I'll show you some images later on that'll demonstrate that as well. Above that, we have 6 levels of residential. And well, we're real proud of this, that every unit will not look into the others. So with the sawtooth pattern that we've created, you'll have privacy from one unit to the next. We haven't gone into the trouble of designing all the units yet because, frankly, that's a little too early. There is a mezzanine level, and I will tell you right now that we've already discussed possibly eliminating this. By the time we get through construction documents, we'll probably end up with a 12-story building. So it'll be even shorter than what we're saying now. We're showing 13 stories. What was approved before was 15. And I'm going to guarantee you that we may pop that pool and make it a raised pool so that we don't have to add that mezzanine level, which really represented the 13th floor. On the very top deck, we have 2, so a private and a public area. So the private area for the pool, with the pool, is for the tenants, and on the what would be the east side will be the public area. And then we will have community events, farmers markets, cinema night, functions that really the whole community can share. And we're also going to be providing a small restaurant and tavern on that upper level. So you'll arrive there and you can either go left or right depending on whether you're a tenant or whether you're there for a community function. Does that make sense? We can have weddings up there, we're going to have a stage, and all the infrastructure necessary for that. Now for the good stuff. We've already showed you the elevations and you've seen some of those. But I will go right to the renderings, which kind of demonstrate, and I hope you can zoom in on this a little better than I'm showing here. Okay. As you can see, the design of the project was to really outwardly express the interior function. So the first level is a little different, and when we go to the back rendering of the project, you'll see that this is the pedestrian level. So you can see how the building's been set back on that main level, overhang, shaded areas for seating, al fresco dining, very pleasant space, and that goes pretty much all the way around the building. 3 levels of parking, and you can see we're going to be screening those 3 parking decks with a screened element so that you're not going to see the cars. But it does breathe, and Sam will understand this. We don't want to have to ventilate that. So the garage will breathe, but we'll have a visual barrier for the cars and from the people looking at the building. The middle band, obviously, is the office space, so that's where you've got that glazed look, real slick feel for it, but we're hoping that people live here will work down below. And then, of course, those 6 levels of residential with that sawtooth pattern. We're also going to be incorporating a living wall for all of those balconies. So it'll be plants. This building will kind of become more green with time. This is the back elevation. Here you can see the entrance to the garage. The ramp down here indicates that that's where all the traffic will be. But this is the Maryland Parkway edge. And one of the things I wanted to point out that Tony mentioned was that transit area. Should this be approved, and we are hopeful that it will be, conversations with the RTC are that we may provide a transit stop here in the future, which really contributes to the waiver that we're asking for. We want people to arrive here through other modes of transportation, and so we're going to do everything we can to provide the infrastructure necessary for that to happen. The main front entrance you've already seen, and this is a kind of a blow-up of the front entrance, which is almost 5 stories in height. It's going to be grand. Get past this. I've already shown you that one. And the last renderings of the pool area. This is the private pool deck. This is the private, the public area. This is where we can have public functions and, as I mentioned before, community activities. Another shot of the private area. And that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. We ask for your approval, and we'll answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard on this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Schlotman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you, I remember when this came through a few years ago, a couple years ago. I think Mr. Sluss remembers that I didn't vote for it. This was one of the reasons why I didn't vote for this is I didn't think this project was really moving forward, and I think it also had some issues at the time that I wasn't comfortable with. If it ultimately got built, I wouldn't have had any heartburn over it. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, people aren't entitling projects and pretty much causing all the land to be locked up in the surrounding neighborhood because everybody thinks their properties are worth $15 million. Now, we don't look at land values, but it can have a big impact on the neighboring area. I like what's designed. I think that even if this doesn't get approved, you still have entitlements to build the other project. So one way or another, it would be entitled for a high-rise, mid-rise, whatever we want to call it. You know, I think also over the past couple of years, we've made a little bit further with RTC, understanding, you know, some sort of transit coming down Maryland Parkway and 13th Street up Carson. Been working on that for about 5 years, and there's improvements planned for Carson Avenue all the way up to Las Vegas Boulevard down to Maryland Parkway. All of that got put on hold 3, 4, or 5 years ago because of this new transit system coming in. So hopefully we get that all figured out because I'd like to see the improvements going in on Carson Avenue. I think being a block off of that transit system, it's easy enough for people to walk back and forth. I can see this whole corridor. I mean, we just recently had another office that we proposed to tear down and rebuild a block from here. And so there's a lot of activity. Bunnyfish Studios, another architecture firm, moved in this area. So a lot of activity starting on Maryland Parkway. I did have concerns in the past of we're building a high-rise outside of downtown, the Arts District, that core area where all of our high-rises are. But I think this Maryland Parkway could be a new core for something like that going all the way down to Maryland Parkway. We'll see. For those reasons, I don't have the same heartburn that I had a couple of years ago and like to make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Schlotman. I'll just add real quick. Commissioner Toussaint.
No, I just want to say I'm really excited about this. Back in 1953, I lived right on the corner of Maryland Parkway and Lewis. And to see something like this, it just makes my heart sing. So you'll have my approval tonight.
Thank you. That's great. And I should disclose, it's been well over a decade that I worked with Mr. Vance on a high-rise on Las Vegas Boulevard. I will be voting on the application. And it was with a different firm at the time, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time ago. But our building on Las Vegas Boulevard is right across the street from the double-decker bus stop. And we had, and still have, people that live in the building that actually they work on the strip, and they pay their, I think, $250 or whatever it was to get on the bus and go up, or they buy the monthly pass, and they'll go to one of them was a chef at the Wynn, one of them worked, you know, at the different resort properties, and it does work. So when you have development like this, and it's properly interfaces, and we just happen to have a bus stop that we worked with to make sure that, you know, we moved it to the right corner, or helped move it to the right corner, and it does create connectivity and good places to live. And as Vegas grows, I think more and more people are going to jump at that opportunity instead of the long drives and commutes that are starting to come our way. So I will be supporting the application as well. But I'll let you please make a motion, Commissioner Schlotman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On item number 66, I would move to approve BAC 744.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
That was me. My papers are hitting the mic. Let's see, so and finally, item 67 SDR 76593, I move to approve, subject to staff's conditions based on testimony heard tonight.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will move forward and be heard on City Council's agenda on August 21st, 2019, as a part of the 11 a.m. agenda.
Great, thank you.
We thank you, appreciate your consideration and support, and have a good night.
Thank you. And to Daniel, I'm glad to see that he's still here and still in the fight, so glad to hear that.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. It's good to be back here. It's good to be still involved in the project.
Give me your name for the record, just so we have.
Oh, Daniel Reisberg.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. Glad you're here still. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, when I got my entitlements, I promised Carol Goodman, Mayor Goodman, that I would try my best to finish this project and see it through, and we've come a long way, so I'm holding that promise, and thank you very much for your approval.
Glad to see it.
this
Thank you
evening.
very much.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to item number 68, citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. No subject may be acted upon by the Planning Commission unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, we will adjourn
I
the
just
meeting.
have
Oh, Vice
just
Chair
one comment. You said the
Please,
public.
please.
First of all, I'd just like to say congratulations, Mr. Chairman, on your reappointment. I look forward to continuing working with you. It's been awesome, the best 2 years. Commissioner Rogan, congratulations, welcome. And I can't miss out, on behalf of the DeSalvios and on behalf of Labor's Local 872, I would definitely like to say happy birthday to Mayor Oscar Goodman, his 80th birthday.
No, that's very sweet. That's very nice. Thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.